What's up, guys? Jay here with Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with another Battling with a Budget installment. Today's video is for another viewer/subscriber requested build. One of our viewers, Travis Langert, requested that we do a budget Talrand Sky Summoner EDH deck. So Travis, this is the video for you. I really hope you do enjoy it and that you take some inspiration from it if you're planning on building your very own Talrand deck. And for everybody else watching, I really hope you enjoy the video as well. Now, one thing that I do want to kind of mention before we get into the deck concerning our 500 subscriber giveaway. Joe Lombardi, if you're watching this video, Derek's made me aware that you have yet to get in touch with us about your free stuff that you've won for winning our giveaway. So Joe, if you're watching this video, please go to our About Us tab on our YouTube channel, get our email address, and shoot us an email and get in touch with us so Derek can find out what you want as your gift for winning our giveaway, so he can make that happen and mail it out to you. So again, Joe, if you're watching, get in touch with us as soon as possible. So, with that said, let's get in onto this deck. With it being a Battling with a Budget deck, this is a Talrand EDH deck for less than $50. The current price for this deck, as it stands right now, according to TCG Player Mid, is $48.41. So we're right underneath that $50 range we want to be at, which is good. So, I mean, that's a very attainable budget for anybody. So let's start looking at the deck here. Obviously, our general is Talrand The Sky Summoner. He's a 4-cost 2/2 Merfolk Wizard that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you put a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying onto the battlefield. It's a very cool ability, I must say. I myself, I'm not a huge blue player. I'm not very into control type decks or anything like that. I do have a few EDH decks that have blue in them and do have some control elements to them. But I myself, I'm not a huge fan of blue myself. A lot of you are probably going, oh, why don't you like blue? Blue's the best color. I know a lot of you may feel that way, and that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I personally am just not a huge fan of blue. But, Travis, I hope that this deck is more or less what you're looking for in a Talrand deck. I think it came out pretty good. So, let's start looking at the deck. First up, we'll take a look at our land base. And, we've said it once, and we'll say it 1,000 more times until we're blue in the face. If you really want to budgetize your deck, start with your land base. This one wasn't really too difficult to come up with, seeing as it's a mono blue deck. But, there's lands like that Kamigawa land that taps for blue and lets everybody draw cards, and, like Academy Ruins and stuff like that. Talaria West if you want to transmute for some of your other lands. Those things, cost a few bucks. So, if you have the money to spend on them, by all means, go right ahead and spend the money on them. Just for the purpose of this deck and this video, we want to be on a budget and we want to stay under $50. So, our land base consists of the following: 1 Halimar Depths, 34 islands, Lonely Sandbar for some cycling, a Moonring Island, and a Remote Isle for some more cycling. So, that's it. That's the land base. Majority of it is just basic islands. With it being a mono blue deck, you don't really need too much other types of lands in the deck. So next up, we'll take a look at our artifacts. We have a Bident of Thassa to draw cards when our creatures hit our opponent. Also, you can force your opponent's creatures to attack if you like with that as well. Crystal Shard to bounce creatures, unless its controller pays 1. Mirari to copy our instants and sorceries. Strionic Resonator to copy our triggered abilities. Mainly why I put this in here is to copy Talrand's triggered ability to just get more Drakes on the board whenever you cast spells. Swiftfoot Boots for some protection for our general, and Whisper Silk Cloak for some more protection for our general. Next up, we'll take a look at our sorceries. We run Curse of the Swine to exile dudes, Mystic Speculation for some scry with some buybacks, so that's very nice. And the one card that just had to go into the deck just off of, just off of the theme, because it is a deck for Talrand The Sky Summoner. We have Talrand's Invocation. Just had to go into the deck. just off of principle, it just had to go in the deck. So next up, we'll take a look at our instance, which is a pretty hefty portion of the deck, and rightfully so, seeing as, every time you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if you have Talrand on the board, he gets you a 2/2 Flying Drake. So I packed this deck with quite a few instants. As you can see, there's 21 of them. And more or less in this package of spells, you'll see mostly bounce and counter spells. One thing about counter spells, I'm not a huge fan of them myself. I honestly think they're kind of lame. But in a mono blue deck, if you're not playing counter spells, that's just silly. I mean, if you're going to play counter spells with this guy, you're essentially, shutting your opponent out and getting a 2/2 flyer at the same time, so it just makes sense. So let's start looking at our instance. We have Aether Spouts to bounce all attacking creatures, Boomerang for some bounce, Cancel for some counter, Capsize for some bounce with buyback, so that's nice, Counter Spell, the ultimate, basic original counterspell, just 2-cost counter target spell. Cyclonic Rift for some either spot removal bounce, or if you overload it, you bounce each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, so essentially a blue sweeper. Dissipate for the counter, Dissolve for the counter, Dream Fracture for the counter, Echoing Truth for some bounce, very, very good on tokens. Fairy Trickery for the counter, Familiar's Ruse for the counter, Ghostly Flicker to exile our creatures and bring them right back, or artifacts and lands. Basically, they're just a re-trigger enter the battlefield effects on our creatures. Another counter spell and Hinder, Icy Blast to tap dudes down, Into the Royal for the bounce, Pongify, just really, really good overall spell. I mean, 1 blue to destroy any creature, and its controller gets a 3/3 green ape. I mean, I'll gladly give my opponent a 3/3 green ape creature to destroy their Vorinclex or destroy their Elesh Norn or whatever it may be. We have a Reality Shift for some creature exiling, Rewind for some counter, Twin Cast to copy some spells, and a Wipe Away for some bounce with Split Second. Next, we'll take a look at our enchantments. We have a Dissipation Field, which is really nice, so it kind of deters your opponent from wanting to swing into you, because if they hit you, that creature's just going to go back to their hand and they're going to have to recast it. Equilibrium is just phenomenal. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you can pay 1. If you do, you return target creature to its owner's hand, so if you invest 1 extra mana every time you cast a dude, you're going to bounce a dude, so that's really nice. And Propaganda to make it so that it's harder for your opponents to attack into you. Alright, and lastly, we'll take a look at our creature base. Pretty versatile creature base, if I do say so. We kind of have almost a little bit of a wizard/merfolk sub-theme in our creature base, which is kind of cool because Talrand is a merfolk wizard, so that is, very nice. But, we get some dudes that will bounce things. We've got dudes that will, draw you cards, flicker guys in and out. Stuff like that, fetch up instants and sorceries. We get a pretty versatile creature base here, so let's take a look. We have an Aether Adept for some bounce. We have an Archaeomancer to recur our spells. Augur of Bolas to look at our top 3 and get spells out of those top 3 right into our hand. Azami, Lady of Scrolls, with it kind of being a little bit of a wizard sub-theme. We do have quite a few wizards in the deck, so she's a shoe-in. Clever Impersonator. I I believe, the best clone ever printed. He clones any non-land permanent. Then we have Clone. We'll clone any creature on the board. Echo Mage to copy our spells if we level him up. Guile is very nice. It's a 6/6 beater that can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, so he's more than likely going to get through. And if you would counter a spell with a spell or an ability, that spell gets exiled, and then you can cast that spell without paying its mana cost. So we do have quite a few counter spells in this deck. So he's a house. Then we have an Icefall Regent, basically a flying Frost Titan. We have Lorthos the Tidemaker, a nice 8/8 beater that will tap a whole bunch of things down. If you pay 8 colorless every time he attacks, he'll tap up to 8 permanents, and then they don't untap during that next untap step of that controller. We have a Lull Mage Mentor. He's very nice. Whenever you counter a spell, you get a 1/1 blue Merfolk, and then you can tap 7 untapped Merfolk you control to counter a spell, so he's pretty sweet. We have a Lunar Mystic to draw cards off of casting our instance if we invest 1 extra mana into it. We have a Melitist Charlatan to copy our instants and sorceries. Maloku the Clouded Mirror to bounce our lands for 1 and get a 1/1 blue flyer, so he's pretty cool. We have a Merfolk Wayfinder to look at our top 3 and fetch up any islands out of those cards and put them into our hand. We have a Mist Raven for some bounce, Mistblade Shinobi for some more bounce, Mnemonic Wall to recur our spells, Mull Drifter, everybody knows and loves Mull Drifter, Nephalia Smuggler to flicker our creatures and retrigger effects when they enter the battlefield, Pestermite, a nice little cheap flash flying creature that taps or untaps a permanent when it comes in. Then we have a Riftwing Cloudskate for some bounce, and if we want to suspend it, we could potentially do that as well. We have a Sigil Tracer for some more spell copying by paying 2 and tapping 2 untapped wizards we control. A Stony Brook Banneret to lower the casting costs of our Merfolks and wizards by 1. We have a Surge Spanner to bounce some more stuff whenever he becomes tapped and by paying 2 when that happens. We have a Temporal Adept for some more bounce, Uyo Silent Prophet to copy spells, and a Void Mage Prodigy to counter spells by paying 2 blue and sacrificing a wizard. So that's more or less the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Travis, I hope you especially enjoyed this video. And again, I hope you this is what you were kind of looking for in this deck, and that you take some inspiration from it if you are planning on building your very own Talrand deck. But just a couple more things to talk about this deck. Not much really to talk about here with the color balance because it's mono blue. So moving on to our types of cards. With this specific deck, we have majority creatures, lands, and instants. In this case, this deck is very instant heavy, and rightfully so. Our mana curve sits pretty high at 3, so we kind of spike up at 2, we go very high at 3, and then we kind of curve downwards towards 4 and 5. So our average converted mana cost is 3.25, so that's pretty low, which is kind of the reason why some of you may have noticed I don't really run any mana rocks or mana ramp in this deck. I just didn't feel like it was necessary. The mana curve in this deck is very low, so I feel like you won't have a problem getting your lands out on the board to cast your spells. And, I felt like in place of running mana rocks, I would just pack in a whole bunch more instants into the deck to get more value out of Talrand. But yeah, that's more or less the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, throw it a like and a comment to this video. And if you're not already subscribed to Tap and Turn Gaming, please crush that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. But yeah, that's more or less this deck. This has been Talrand, EDH deck for less than $50. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot.